Today we're going to be talking about tax tables. Unfortunately, almost all of us have to pay sales tax, so we're going to talk about how we can set this up in Keystroke. Just a little bit about Keystroke Live. Remember, it's every Wednesday, 10 o'clock Mountain Time, same place, same login information, and we try to vary the topics from week to week so that you get a broad overview of things that are available in Keystroke. The first Wednesday of every month is with our President of Specialized Business Solutions, Michael Gebb, and that's a couple weeks from now, so you'll get to see him in the first part of November. So the thing to remember with sales tax, and I'll go through the slides a little bit and then we'll get into Keystroke so you can see how this works in Keystroke. And for those of you who were here last week and we talked about price tables, the whole the way it works is very similar to price tables, only now we're talking about sales tax rather than pricing of for your customers. So there are tax tables in Keystroke which belong to the customers. Then there are tax districts underneath each of those tables. Those tax districts are separate taxing agencies for reporting. So to make it, when we get into it, I'll show you, a lot of places there's, say, a 5% state sales tax and a 1% city sales tax and a 0.5% county sales tax. You can set each of those up in separate districts, but if for reporting purposes you remit all of those taxes, the state, the county, the city, all get sent to the state, you may not have to set up separate districts. But if you pay them separately, if you pay the state, you pay the county, you pay the town or the city, then you would want to set up different taxing districts. Then within each district, there are the tax formulas that help determine how and how much items are taxed. And those tax formulas then call out the tax codes on the inventory items. So this can get as complex or as simple as you need to be. So okay, we're going to go down now with tax tables. Within tax tables, the formulas under the districts are date sensitive. You can set up starting and ending dates. A very important thing to remember, and I just noticed a typo here, this should be if your tax rate change, the first thing, the easiest thing is once you know the tax rates are going to change, you can set them up a week, a month, months in advance, and they will automatically kick in based on these on the dates. But if your tax rate changes, you never want to just go into Keystroke and change your tax formulas. You always want to end your existing formulas, end it on the appropriate date, say June 30th, something like that, and start the new formulas on July 1st. And there are various features in tax tables, things like including tax in the price. I did this years ago when I worked at a little concession stand. You know, you price your things at 50 cents or 75 cents, and that includes the tax. It makes it a whole lot easier when giving change. You can also set up minimum purchases so that maybe you pay a different tax rate if it's a high price item, or you might have a tax holiday, for example. A lot of states do that. before school start or around the holidays, where if you purchase less than a certain amount, you don't pay any sales tax, but if you purchase more, you might pay a sales tax. You can also round your sales tax. You can subtotal it, which means with an appropriate form file where you print your receipts, you can separate out your different taxes, and I'll show you how that works in our sample data. And there are other parameters. So let's take a look here at Keystroke. And first we're going to go into where you set up sales tax. And that's in Configuration Manager, under the Tables menu, and Tax, and then you can see it lists here for you to give you a little reminder. Tables belong to the customers, the codes belong to the inventory, and the districts are your separate taxing entities for your who you need to remit your sales tax to. So you go to Tables, Tax, Tables. Let's look at what we have set up in our sample data and how you read this. So the first column is your tax table code. These codes can be up to 12 characters now. We haven't updated our sample data, but it can be up to 12 characters. The name is state and local, and you can see here it comes out to a total of about 8.25%. The last column are the districts under the table, and so let's take a look at that. The rest of these are, you can see it's a 0% tax rate, so we're primarily going to be looking at state and local. So the table is S, the name is state and local, and we have two districts. We have our state and local sales tax, and then which is represented with the S, and then we have a B, which we've set up in Keystroke to be a bottle deposit, and a lot of states do require bottle deposits. So this is one way to set it up. So let's look at within your district, your state and local. And this gives a good example of how the tax rates have changed. If you notice, starting up at the top, you have, these are, the first column are your tax codes, and then you have the name for the tax code, and you have a date range. In this case, the beginning date is blank, so that's kind of at the beginning of the time, but this particular tax formula ended the middle of July of 2010, as did a lot of these. And then you notice as we go further down, we start all of these same or similar formulas again that began on July 18th and go through the end of time, where our tax rate is 8.25%. So let's take a look at T taxable. If you look, when you start a formula, first you have to define the tax code it's going to work for, which is on the inventory items. If you hit F2 or insert when you're in that field, it'll list all of your tax codes that you may have on various inventory items. Just like with other things in Keystroke, if you need to add to this list, you can hit F2 or insert. I'll put in a new tax code. We'll call it test. So you can kind of see how that works, but we're not going to set up a formula for that at this point. You can see for your tax code T, your tax amount is 8.25%. You can also, if you like, and we'll see this on the bottle deposit, you can change this for a fixed dollar amount for your tax formula just by clicking on the little percent or dollar sign symbol. But we're going to leave it at 8.25%, and it's based on the price. whatever price you assign or you charge for that item, it's going to be charged 8.25%. There are various circumstances, though, but that your tax might be based on something else. It could be, rather than the price you sell it for, it could be taxed based on the base price, on the list price, or the cost. Where I've seen this used is, say, based on cost. You've probably have been involved or heard of somebody, some cell phone provider. Hey, you sign up for a 2-year plan, you get a free phone. Well, you get a free phone, but you still have to pay the sales tax on that phone. And depending on the state and the local laws, you might need to pay the sales tax based on the base price, the list price, or the cost. So that's what that's usually used for. Then you have your date range, and for sales tax purposes, your starting date always begins at 0 a.m. or just a second after midnight, the previous night. Your ending date always ends at midnight. Then you can have minimum purchase. This is where, for example, you might pay a different sales tax on high-priced items, or if there's a sales tax holiday. Again, this minimum purchase can be based on quite a number of things: the line quantity in sales, a line dollar amount. It could be based on the tax code quantity, the tax code amount or the dollar amount, or it can be based on the transaction subtotal or the price. And I'll kind of show you how that works when we get into our bottle deposit district and our formulas. As long as your minimum purchase here is 0, it does not matter what it's based on, and it does not matter whether you have subtract minimum purchase amount or not. That only comes into effect if you're having a minimum purchase guideline for your sales tax. Then you have all these formulas at the bottom. As usual, I always refer you to our help screens. You can see what these mean. The round up means it's always going to round up your sales tax to the nearest penny. You can round your tax on each item. So, for example, and it gives a good example in the help, if, say, the sales tax on an item is 2.5 cents, it can round that up so each item gets 3 cents of sales tax, rather than if you sell 5 of those items, you are going to get a different sales tax amount. So use this very carefully. And most states, it's my understanding, if you choose to round up or round up on each item, the state, as long as you remit to your taxing entities the amount of tax you actually collected, even if you've rounded it up, they're more than happy to take a few pennies here and there more than what it might actually be. This is where the parameter for your tax included in the price, where you always want to sell an item for $1 or for $5. Realize that that works very well when you're selling a single item, but occasionally it can get tweaked a little bit, plus or minus a penny, if you sell 5 of the item. So that's kind of up to you. It's probably something you might want to test out. Also, your sales tax can be taxable by other formulas. This is primarily there. I believe Canada does have a type of tax that is taxable by other tax, so you might have to turn that on. Allowing subtotal on receipts. Remember, I mentioned, and I'll show it here, of how you can see your sales tax and your bottle deposit separately. And the ignore non-taxable pay flag is related to things that are taxable depending on how you pay for it. For example, items may be generally taxable, but if you pay for it with an EBT card or food stamps, it might not be taxable. But let's take a look here under our state and local for our bottle deposits. Notice we have all these other tax formulas. So we have, single bottle, 6 packs, 12 packs. If you go into, each of those are still taxed at the 8.25%. But where you get your bottle deposits is in your bottle deposit district. And this is where we're taxing for a dollar amount rather than a percentage. Notice for a single bottle, basically an item with a tax code of 1, you're going to get a 5-cent tax based on the quantity. So if someone purchases 3 single bottles, they're going to get 15 cents. There's no minimum purchase, but this is where when your taxing amount changes to dollar, notice a percentage, you can base it on price or cost. When it's based on dollars, it can be based on quantity or per line. So again, some testing may need to be required. And this is where we have the allow subtotal on receipts, so we can separate out the amount paid for bottle deposit versus the amount paid for regular sales tax. So I want to kind of give you an example here by going into Sales Manager, and we're just going to use the regular cash customer who has a tax table of your S, state, and local. So we're going to sell them a book here, and they get a free bookmark. Notice it's taxable at the 8.25%. So now I'm going to do something with the bottle deposit. This is a case of Pepsi, and it's going to get 24 times a nickel, so it's going to be $1.20 in the bottle deposit plus the regular tax. Notice here this shows you what may be available for food stamp or EBT if it's set up. Now before we finish this, I'm going to go back and do this again. I want to make sure that my print button is set up for a receipt so we can see how the sales tax is split out. So there are certain formulas that do have that, so we're going to use the one star tax. It is set up to show and separate out your different taxes. So we're going to save that. Let's go back to sales. We're going to do that. Then we're going to sell your case of Pepsi again. We're just going to pay cash for it. No big deal. But let's take a look at the receipt here. It's going to show your items. And down at the bottom, you can see your regular sales tax, or your 8.25%, is $2.80. But your bottle deposit is $1.20. So this is how you can separate it out. Let's take a look in Report Manager now on how you can report on your sales tax. 2 basic ways. You can just do summary detail if all you need is your bottom dollar line of what you collected in sales tax, and you have just one of those and you remit it to the same place all the time. That's the report you're probably going to use. It's generally going to be based on sales invoices. Daily, you can do it summary or detailed. Your method is an accounting method. That's set up with you and the accountant and the state. Accrual, remember, means once you sell it and it's out the door, you need to remit the sales tax. Weighted cash is used in a lot of businesses where they might be financing or charging on account, and a customer may be paying over months. If you sell an item, say, worth $10,000, and you're allowing the customer to charge it on account, you might have set up your business for your sales tax to be on a weighted cash basis. So you're not liable to pay the sales tax to the state once that $10,000 item goes out the store. You pay the sales tax based on how much of that $10,000 item you've actually gotten paid for. Cash is a little bit different. It works for that $10,000 item. You will only be liable to pay the sales tax when that whole $10,000 invoice is paid off. Let's take a look at a sales tax report just for the, boy, that was loud, just for the month of October. Oh well. And you can see this is a detailed report. So you can see on a week ago there was one transaction. It shows the subtotal, your discount, your taxable, non-taxable, shipping total, the amount of sales tax that was charged, and your tax rate, your customer. Same thing for today. Now notice here, the one today, if you send your bottle deposits to the state along with your regular sales tax, this is great. You can just run this report, and for this date range, you've collected $4.47. But if you have to remit your bottle deposits separately, then you would do a table district code report. You would definitely want to report by district. You may or may not want to report on code, but we're going to use the tax district subtotal and take a look at this. We're going to run it for the same date time range. Okay, this is not reporting my districts. Let me make sure I'm setting this up properly. Let's uncheck don't print if empty here. So now you can see with my S state and local, my total amount. Oh, this isn't liking me with my bottle deposits. Let's see. We probably just want to do it let's just do it based on our tax district. And I'm going to have to check on this because it's not giving us our amounts here, but theoretically you'll see for your districts, your state and local, notice it totals it up here very well at the bottom. I may be missing a setting here, but it's showing each of your districts and the amount of tax paid. So let's go back to our little PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to do a little review here. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. Remember, your tax tables are with your customers, tax districts, separate out your different taxing agencies for reporting. You have tax formulas that are in the districts, and your tax codes, which are called out on the formulas, belong to your inventory items. Remember, your formulas are date sensitive, and if you take nothing else away from this presentation, remember, if a tax rate changes, you always want to end the existing formulas and add new formulas. We have various parameters that you can set up, and there are all kinds of circumstances where you may or may not use those. I'm going to open this up for some questions from everybody. I want to thank everybody for attending. And does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Lynn. I have a question. How would you handle it if a situation where the bottle deposit is subject to sales tax, the regular sales tax?
Okay, what we could do, let's go back to Keystroke and Configuration Manager tables, tax tables. Let's go to our bottle deposit and our formulas. You would put an X in taxable by other formulas. So this 5% per bottle for 6 packs, 30 cents for a 6-pack, you could mark those as taxable by other formulas, and then you will be charged sales tax on the amount of the bottle deposit as well. Now, there is another way that some people like to do bottle deposits. That is by using scripting, which is available in Advanced POS, and you can add the bottle deposits as a line item, and you can set them up as taxable that way. So there's 2 ways of handling it. You can do your bottle deposits as a sales tax, or your bottle deposits as a tag-along item using scripting, and either way you can tax your bottle deposits. Does that make sense? Good. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. Remember, same time, same place every Wednesday. Next week, you're going to get to be with Jay Restucia. He's going to be doing Database Screens Editor, and that'll be a good one if you've not worked with that very often. It's a great little presentation. And everybody have a great day.